All right, well, welcome everyone to Alpine Learning Group's Innovation in Autism webinar series. Alpine Learning Group offers a full range of diagnostic and applied behavior analysis-based educational and clinical services to individuals of all ages. Each year, during Autism Acceptance Month, we share our expertise through free webinars and make them available to the community. At the close of this presentation, we'll share a link to learn about other presentations in this series. I'm Dr. Bridget Taylor, and I'm the co-founder and CEO of Alpine Learning Group. For nearly 35 years, I've had the pleasure of working alongside a group of innovative and compassionate leaders in the field of autism. I'm happy we're able to share their expertise with you today. Today's webinar, Navigating Adulthood, Tools for Building a High Quality of Life for Autistic Adults, will be presented by Katrina Roberts, our Director of Adult and Transition Programs here at Alpine, and Nicole Torrone, our Assistant Director of Transition Services. I'm thrilled to have them both here today to share their expertise. Take it away, Katrina and Nicole.
Thank you, Bridget. Good afternoon and welcome to our talk today on creating a high quality of life for autistic adults. Nicole and I are very excited to be here with you today. Here is today's agenda. We will be going through each topic area across the next hour and giving some tips and tools on achieving a high quality of life along the way. First, let's go over what we know about adults with autism in the United States currently. So in 2017, the CDC reported that 2.2% of adults in the US were diagnosed with autism. That's just about 5.5 million adults in the United States. And in 2020, Autism Speaks reported that 1 in 45 adults were diagnosed with autism, versus recent updates from the CDC as of this month stating that 1 in 31 children are diagnosed with autism. The difference between the age groups here shows us that we have gotten much better at identifying autism at an earlier age and reaching out for the services that are needed as well. To get us started, the next few slides will go over some of the information we have from a report by the Drexel Autism Institute about the outcomes in adulthood for autistic adults. This is from 2017. So here we see that individuals surveyed for this report are accessing DD services in adulthood, while about half of them are receiving respite services and 25% are reporting that they did not receive all the services that they need. They're also reporting that 50% of adults with autism have co-occurring health conditions, and 54% had co-occurring mental health conditions. 64% took medication for psychiatric and/or behavioral challenges as well. According to the CDC in 2023, 26.7% of children with autism meet the criteria for profound autism. This is the first time that they're reporting on profound autism at the time. And that definition is meaning that these children will need 24/7 lifetime care from a caregiver and have limited to no verbal language. For these individuals, we will need to think about each topic area that we discussed today and how it applies to quality of life and the supports they receive even more closely. Some ways that we can work to improve the numbers on the first screen are listed here. For DD service access, we would want to make sure that we get all the information about services that you need at an early age. You start thinking about transition services within your IEP meetings at the age of 14. Find out what services are available in your state starting at this time as well. Identifying supports, whether it be an attorney or an advocate, to help you gather the information you need and advocate for the appropriate supports the student requires is very important. And in regard to mental health and health, early screening is important. Identify a provider you trust with your healthcare needs and keep an eye on changes, especially as you enter young adulthood. If you're noticing changes in behavior between the ages of 18 to 20, it would be important to bring this up to your healthcare provider, as this is the age of onset for most mental health conditions in individuals of any ability, if there hasn't been one already. In regards to employment, only 14% are working in the community for pay, and that place of employment was also an inclusive setting. 42% participated in unpaid activities, whether that be volunteer work, day programming, or other programs that occur in the community with others, and 27% had no work or activities in the community or a facility-based setting. And for living arrangements, 49% lived at home with a parent or family member, 27% lived in a group residence, and of those that lived with family, 38% did not receive any in-home supports as the funding was not available. For employment at Alpine, our current rates of employment are 57%, which is a drastic difference from 14%, so we are proud of that, and it continues to grow. Some piece of advice that we have here is to pool your resources and network with those that you know. At Alpine here, we have a jobs committee that we started a few years back where our staff and family members join together every other month to talk about the needs that we have for employment and other community-based work experiences amongst our student population. There is research out there that says that if you're creating internship opportunities and work opportunities while in school, that there is a higher chance for employment soon after graduation from high school. In fact, it's 90% higher chance that a high school graduate would find work within the 2 years post-graduation if they had work experiences while they were in school, versus only 40% for those who did not have work experiences while in school. At Alpine, currently, we have 93% of our individuals are participating in community-based work opportunities, whether that is paid employment or volunteerism, internships, across all of our programs here. And when it comes to living arrangements, we really need to think about what is best for the individual. Quality of life for the individual who has autism, as well as the family. Would the individual prefer to have a place of their own with support, a place with friends, maybe in a group residence, and visit family on the weekends or for those weeknight dinners and vacations? Or is it better for them to live within the home of their family, but having their own space? Make sure to utilize the resources that you have in your state, as well as your support coordination agency, to know what is available to you and when it comes to living arrangements. Under social and community participation, the report stated that 80% of the respondents for this survey said that they were getting out into the community for shopping, dining, or running errands at least once a month. 72% reported having a friend outside of their family members, and 43% made their own choices about what to do with their day. 53% had a court-appointed guardian. So here we would want to say that, once a month is not enough to get out into the community, and identifying programs that will increase the quality and meaningful participation in the community would be very important for the individual who is looking for services. Right now in our day program, there's 60% of the time our adults are out in the community. So there are programs that participate in community involvement and will encourage that across the day. Thinking about guardianship needs to be thought about as a person-centered process. Thinking about what is needed for that individual, is there full or limited guardianship, as well as is supported decision-making a process that would be best for the individual in your life. Many of the topics that I've mentioned so far, and that Nicole will go through a bit later in our talk, have even further detail in the resource I have here on the screen. This is a transition toolkit that is very thorough and published by the Autistic Self-Advocacy Network and the Family Network on Disabilities. Feel free to scan this QR code to gain access to this resource. So moving along, how do we define quality of life? We've looked at the current statistics and made some suggestions on how to improve these numbers to be more positive, but how do we define quality of life? Where do you start? And the World Health Organization defines quality of life as the following: an individual's perception of their position in life in the context of the culture and value systems in which they live, and in relation to their goals, expectations, standards, and concerns. They further break this definition down into the areas listed here: health, material comforts, personal safety, relationships, learning, creative expression, opportunity to help and encourage others, participation in public affairs, socialization, and leisure. So how do we take this information and determine whether someone is leading a high quality of life? The hard part is that this is always opened up to interpretation depending on the individual, their personal circumstances, and how they feel. We also know that autism is a spectrum, and while some individuals will be able to tell us exactly how they feel about their life experience, others may not have the vocal verbal ability to do that. They may need to use a communication device, or a caregiver, family member who knows them well will need to make observations and note various responses to activities they engage in across their day. Are they smiling while engaging in this activity? Are they often at the doctor for various illnesses? Do they get up every morning and get ready for work or program? Are they upset when work or program isn't happening that day? In many cases, we will be taking all of these questions into consideration as we're thinking about a high quality of life. One tool that we found was created by the Newcastle University Autism Research Team, where they added a few additional questions to the WHO's Quality of Life questionnaire specific to individuals with autism. If you would like a closer look at this tool or to use it on your own, the QR code on the screen will bring you to the web form where you can enter your information and then gain access to the tool. These questions are geared towards the individual themselves to answer. So not everyone with autism will be answering these questions on their own. They may need support from an individual or caregiver. So on the next slide, I'll provide some suggestions on observations to make or questions to ask for those individuals who may need a bit more support with answering these questions. So the first question is, do you have enough support from others to make important decisions? And a suggestion that we have is to ask if you feel the individual has staff or family supports that are looking out for their best interest and the highest quality outcome for their future. So an example is, do they take into account the individual's likes, dislikes when planning for activities, employment, aging supports, etc. Another question is, do you have enough support if or when you need it to help you deal with problems? The suggestion that we have is, does the individual you support have enough staff to support them and or family friends to step in when needed? Do you have backup to their initial supports? Do you feel there are barriers when accessing health services? So the suggestion that we have is, are you able to find healthcare services when they are needed for the individual you support? Are you able to find these supports without much struggle to make an appointment or identify someone appropriate? And the last question is, are you at ease with autism as an aspect of your identity? So while this may not be applicable to all individuals across the spectrum, autism is an aspect of their identity. At Alpine, we support individuals who will not be able to tell you that they have an autism diagnosis or what that means, but then we have other students who do and will tell you exactly how they feel about their diagnosis. Knowing they have a diagnosis of autism and what supports they need is important for them as they know and come to terms with the supports that they need as they move into adulthood. So for some of those students, understanding what autism is and how that impacts their daily life in a job interview or the supports that they need on a job or in the programs that they attend, it would be very important for them to be able to advocate for themselves. So let's talk about setting goals for the future. When thinking of developing goals, whether you're an educator or a family member identifying future goals, we need to ask ourselves if the skill will be meaningful to the person and in their life going forward. So what do they need to know? And what they need to know 5, 10, 20 years from now? Is it a functional, practical skill that will impact long-term goals? And how are we addressing social inclusion? Peter Gerhardt and Shanna Berry recently published this book called Make It Meaningful. And within the book, there is a guide here for 20 questions for writing meaningful goals. Here they're talking about the practicality, how much it will mean to their future, and what should go into this. So I would highly suggest that you purchase this book, Make It Meaningful, by Dr. Peter Gerhardt and Shannon Berry. And as you're setting goals, this is just a reminder that independence looks different from one person to the next, but their ability to achieve great things is always possible with arranging the right supports. Some individuals may be able to brush their teeth without a caregiver present, and they follow every step without a single prompt. Others may need a visual schedule via an app on their tablet, and others may need prompts from a caregiver every 3 to 4 steps. But they are as independent as possibly can be at this time. Independence is not a one-size-fits-all, and we need to remember this as we think about what quality of life looks like for each person that we are supporting. I also wanted to touch base on interdependence here as well. I've read many reports over the years where independence in some area is prioritized, but I also think it is important to recognize the value in interdependence in our lives as well. Interdependence is a number of things. It's motivating to do something with someone else around. I'm probably not going to go to the gym by myself, but if I go with a friend, then I am much more likely to enjoy myself too, as well as get the benefits of working out. Our interdependence on others shifts throughout our lives. As children, we rely a lot on our parents for feelings of happiness, but then as we get older, some of that shifts to friends, significant others, caregivers that we find a connection with. I know many times that I've tried to get my children to do something and they won't do it for me, but their uncle comes around and it's not even a question. And I'm sure that we've all had that experience with caregivers as well. Interdependence does not mean that we are completely dependent on someone else. We still have goals for further independence. We are just doing them with support along the way. I like to look at it in this way. We are living our best lives while embracing the support that we need. None of us are fully independent in every area of our lives. We're still setting and achieving goals. Now, to go back a little bit to that list of areas to focus on while building a high quality of life, Nicole is going to share some tips and tools that you can use to help along the way of addressing each of these areas.
Thank you, Katrina. To teach these skills, we use behavioral skills training. This is a teaching technique that involves providing a rule or instruction, then modeling the skill being taught, allowing the learner to practice, and providing feedback. We repeat these steps until criterion performance is met, and to achieve optimal performance, we may also use photo or text prompts, and in some instances, video modeling. To get started, healthy habits are key to well-being. Nutrition, sleep, exercise directly impact energy, mood, and behavior. We should consider the individual's access and skills in these areas to create schedules and routines that can be completed at their highest level of independence, whatever that may look like for them. Consider stress-relieving strategies. Teaching and encouraging healthy outlets like the use of relaxation techniques such as yoga, meditation, or applications that model deep breathing to self-regulate. It is helpful to practice these skills in and outside of stressful situations to ensure when a stressor does occur, the individual is familiar with their calming strategy. As far as coping strategies go, teaching adaptive skills like problem solving and communication can help mitigate frustration levels. And finally, trusted medical professionals are vital. Identifying a physician that strives for collaboration and understanding of the individual's health needs can make all the difference. At Alpine Learning Group, we support the use of various tools to assist in managing all of these factors. We help many of our learners to utilize smart devices like Fitbits, Apple Watches, iPhones, iPads, as these devices provide access to applications that can help to set and track fitness and nutrition goals. Personal safety is another factor in building a high quality of life. So how can we foster the development of personal safety? Things like teaching self-advocacy, as this empowers individuals to understand and communicate their needs effectively in various situations. This includes knowing when and how to seek assistance when lost, needing help at work and/or school, or requiring personal support. Decision-making, teaching the process of considering options and consequences to make informed choices. Problem-solving, developing step-by-step approach to identify and resolve challenges. We must also consider safety in the home. So teaching of essential safety routines, including kitchen safety and safe practices for answering the door or phone, as well as awareness and safety practices for social media use. Medication, providing education and support for safe and accurate medication management tailored to that individual. For example, we have a learner whose parents provided a weekly pill box with the correct dosage for her medications in each day. Once taught to respond to a timer to take the medicine, she has been able to self-administer her own medication, only needing a parent to refill the box once a week rather than requiring everyday support. All of the areas within material comforts are those that provide us with the most security in our lives and essentially impacts all the other areas we discussed today. It is important to think ahead on what each of these areas will look like for a person prior to graduating high school, and probably a better conversation to have at the beginning of transition age, which is 14. Housing. It's best to think of a plan for both short and long-term housing. Where will the person live now and when they're 30 years old? Financial security. Apply for Social Security at the age of 18. Determine how they will earn money and if they will be working. Transportation. What goals do we need to set there? How will the person get where they need to go? At Alpine, we have individuals taking a variety of transportation options to get around. Some of our students are learning how to use rideshare applications and to use them safely. Others are using paratransit. In New Jersey, this is called Access Link, or DD-approved transportation providers. However, many do rely on their family and friends or staff for transportation to important activities as well as events. Food security connects to all the areas above. We want to know where our next meal is coming from. Having the financial security will help in this area to be able to budget for groceries and have good food options we all desire to have in our homes. Essential food items as well as those comfort food items. Personal belongings and environment. Here we want to think about all the things that surround us. The bedspread we want, the couch that's comfortable, and the TV with gaming system that will entertain us. The lighting in our home that feels good to us, clothing and shoes we want to put on. Maintaining relationships and engaging in socialization contribute to improved quality of life as well. To do this, we explore ways to utilize technology effectively for social connection. This can include teaching skills for texting, right? What is the appropriate text messaging etiquette and how to initiate and respond to messages, as well as navigating social media platforms safely and appropriately to connect with others who share interests while being mindful of privacy. For a few of our students have a nightly FaceTime group, and the staff at Alpine help to support those who participate with things like bringing various topics to the conversation and setting up their phones in a way that allows them to be seen on a call. With that being said, it is crucial to identify the best and most reliable communication methods for each person. This might involve considering their communication style, sensory preferences, and the preferences of their social network to ensure consistent and successful interactions. We also work to identify relevant social networks where the individual can engage in shared activities and build relationships based on common interests. This could include groups, clubs, online communities, or classes. Connecting with support groups can be incredibly valuable for the individual and the family. These provide opportunities to connect with others who have similar experiences. For example, we at Alpine offer parent meetings a couple of nights a year where parents from all of Alpine's programs are welcome to join a group discussion and gain guidance from each other. At our last meeting, one family was having a hard time in completing the DDD application and connected with another family who had a similar experience years prior. The families were able to work together in a way that resulted in the resolution of the issue. Addressing healthy relationships and understanding personal boundaries. We explicitly teach these concepts in various contexts. We typically start with private versus public behavior, understanding the difference between behaviors appropriate for private settings versus those public spaces. Then we move on to friendships, learning about reciprocal relationships, right? We should show interest in others' interests and sometimes initiate making plans, all of those things. If work or volunteering is a goal, we teach how to socialize with colleagues, ensuring they understand professional boundaries and appropriate workplace interactions. And for those interested in dating, they must understand concepts like consent and what respect looks like in romantic relationships. The continuation of learning. This looks different for everyone. We can explore higher education options based on individual goals and provide support for accessing these options. For example, some colleges have services like the Office of Specialized Services. Helping connect students with these resources can help them succeed in their classes. But learning does not only occur in a classroom. It can be participating in enriching hobbies and activities like arts, sports, or fitness. Additionally, music lessons offer a creative outlet and can enhance cognitive skills as well. Alexa and Siri, these are readily available tools that can answer questions, summarize information, and even have the ability to practice basic conversation skills. Another option is to use online learning resources such as YouTube. I don't know about you, but when I need help with a functional skill, this is the first place that I look. You can also check out Skillshare. This is a community of individuals who share their expertise in a variety of skills and subjects. And then there's Codecademy, which our students use as a vocational training tool to build websites and digital content. Coding is recognized as a marketable skill and can even help boost your resume. Leisure and creative expression. These terms refer to avenues for enrichment activities. A popular choice for many adults is leisure through technology, which can be used to facilitate engagement through apps, websites, and video games. Others may find interest in creative expression through art, which fosters emotional processing through activities like art classes, writing and journaling, or content creation. Attending events of interest. Sports are a great leisure activity as they promote socialization as well as physical fitness. A well-known organization is the Special Olympics. However, there are many local programs that offer similar opportunities. Here in Northern New Jersey, we have programs like Access for All, Achilles, and the YMCA. Autism New Jersey's website has a variety of resources, including community events for adolescents and adults. And on a national level, Autism Speaks has a similar resource list on their website that allows you to search for events and activities in your area. To further support the development of regular exercise, some may consider obtaining a gym membership or building routines at home. Some of our learners here benefit from using the First Then app to follow exercise routines that they or a caregiver can customize. This app helps users to create schedules and can embed photo prompts, video models, and or verbal prompts within the schedule, depending on the user's support needs. Helping others, whether it be within the home or in the community, aids in creating a sense of purpose. Everyone wants to feel like they are contributing to their environment in a positive way. Participating in volunteer opportunities. This connects individuals to their community and is yet another opportunity to build social connections with others. Volunteering or interning for young adults and adolescents under 21 can help them to gain job experience and improve their resume for post-graduation life. And for adults over 21, volunteer opportunities are available at nonprofit organizations like Goodwill and Habitat for Humanity. A few roads down from Alpine, there is a hospital, and our learners have made cards, paintings, and even bracelets for staff members and patients there. They are always so appreciative, and it makes our learners feel really good about the work that they're doing. Assisting family members. This one is a win-win. Assigning chores or responsibilities helps them gain that sense of purpose, and the family member gains support with their tasks. This can improve the whole family's quality of life. Then there are friends and neighbors. Engaging in acts of kindness, like bringing the newspaper to a neighbor or talking to a friend who may be feeling down, are other ways one can find fulfillment. Our last quality of life factor is community participation. This is important as it establishes a sense of belonging, accountability, and provides different perspectives. Meaningful employment. This is not only for higher financial independence, but a sense of accomplishment, confidence, and autonomy. I had asked a few of our transition learners what meaningful employment means to them. One said, "It gives me the ability to believe in myself." Another said, "Meaningful employment is working somewhere you feel respected and helpful." Volunteerism, once again, is a great way to interact with the community. Fulfilling personal needs like autonomy, self-care, and pursuing personal interests is fundamental not only to happiness, but the individual's dignity. And then there's community events. There's so much going on these days: concerts, sporting events, performances, amusement parks, whatever they are into, making sure that they are getting out there and experiencing the things that they love, not just once a month, but every day, no matter what that looks like, even if it is just going out for a walk. All right. We have talked today about a lot of general activities and resources to help someone build a high quality of life. We've put together some additional resources here for you to access in case they can be of help to you. The first QR code labeled resource link contains tools to increase independence and safety. And the second QR code labeled resource slides has some additional QR codes that will bring you to community resources. Thank you so much for joining us today. Here are Katrina and I's contact information. And I think this is the point where we are opening up the floor to questions.
Thank you, Katrina, and thank you, Nicole. That was terrific. Lots of helpful information. Does anybody have any questions for the panelists? Remember to put them in the question answer section. Any questions? Oh, Wait, there's one here. What advice do you have for young adults who want to make more friends but struggle with the process of meeting new people and going to new places? What can our formal supports like school staff and families do to support them on that journey? So this is about making new friends. Katrina?
Sure. I think we've seen this happen in our transition programs here, where we've had students that have come in and they have a limited social network or don't feel as comfortable with engaging new people into their social network. We have created curriculum around socialization, as well as feeling comfortable or even helping them to identify somebody with similar interests. So we've worked with families to learn more about the person if they're not able to share as much with us, and then making that connection amongst our group. So making that introduction to somebody and starting that conversation may help them feel just a little bit more comfortable in the beginning. And we've seen that that works out to their benefit and their family's benefit as they've then started to get together for dinner, or they've started to get together for their birthday parties, you know, so they're starting to engage with each other even more as they found that one thing that connected them. And so for a couple of our students, it was their enjoyment of listening to the Beatles. That was something that, you know, find that they both like the Beatles that much that they started to connect, like, oh, this is my favorite song. You know, so we're doing a little bit of instruction on those social skills, but also just helping them to identify or learn the questions that they need to ask in order to get to know somebody. And sometimes it's also for someone just attending an event with them, so somebody that they're very comfortable with, going with them and helping them to identify that connection or enjoyment in that activity, and starting as early as possible.
I
If
think
there's anything else you would add, Nicole or Bridget?
clubs are a great idea. So some individuals may be hesitant to engage in social interaction that's free form, that have no context for why we're getting together. And so if your child has interests in particular areas, whether it's gaming or, as Katrina said, movies, or certain interests where they can come together as a group, there may be clubs that exist, or hobbies that they may have where they can do the hobby with others as opposed to by themselves. We have another question here. This feels a little overwhelming.
Mm-hmm.
Can you recommend a starting point for planning? For reference, my child is 10.
Yes, I can see how this would be overwhelming. It's overwhelming for us as we were putting everything together, because there's just so much that goes into a quality of life, right? I think at 10 years old, we're starting to observe what the individual enjoys, right? And I think that that's a great place to start. It's like, where do they enjoy spending their time? And thinking about the future of what will they enjoy. I mean, that will change over time as they age, probably. Sometimes it doesn't. There's still some things I enjoy when I was 10 that I enjoy now. You know, but thinking about what are they enjoying, what do they like doing, and how are they spending their time? And then communication, I think, would be like the two really important places to start with somebody who is 10 years old, is how are they communicating their needs and wants, and what is the best outlet for them to do that. I think everything else will kind of come as time goes along, but you know, if you are looking at just what are they enjoying and how are they communicating and connecting with other people, that will bring you a long way on the rest of this checklist.
I know you probably talked about Pete's book, and that's always a good resource to start with, to just start identifying goals that might be relevant for the long term, so that you can start to think about realigning the goals that you have now that might have impact and meaning for them as they grow into adulthood. I didn't know if you had anything to add there, Nicole.
Yes, actually. Sorry. So I had mentioned previously about Autism New Jersey and Autism Speaks having groups and meetups for adults and adolescents, but I just wanted to note that they have plenty of activities for young adults or younger kids as well. So it's a resource for all ages.
And somebody asked that they serve individuals with moderate to severe individuals on the spectrum. Any thoughts on what would be most meaningful goals and skills to work on with students who fit that profile? Katrina?
I think, in our day program, there are a lot of skills that they're working on as adults that would probably fit the same population that you're working with. And for many of them, those communication skills are very important, whether that's using a device to communicate with others or sign language for some, the ability to transition to multiple community areas, so more of that, like working on transitioning and being in the community, and that flexibility that comes with being in different community settings, I think would be really important. So starting at an earlier age of getting them out into the community, we're working on a transition plan with our school program for some of the students that may come into our adult program. And that's one of the goals that the teachers in our education program and our adult program have discussed, is trying to, have more opportunities for community engagement and socialization that will help them into adulthood. Because so much of adulting occurs in the community, that it's good to start working on being able to be in those spaces, and whether that's that you're working on reducing any behavior that could get in the way of that, or communication to be able to say, this is what I want to do, or making choices. I think those are all really important skills to be working on.
Well, communication, choices, adaptability, being flexible, and being in multiple environments, knowing how they transition and helping them learn to transition between and among different environments and different sets of contingencies, I think is important when they're young, as they enter into adulthood. And Dr. Gerhardt's book is a really great resource to guide you on some of the goals that you might want to consider working on, even if they're severe, moderate to severe on the spectrum, as you indicated, that there are things that you can teach now that will have impacts for adulthood, that will impact adulthood. And another question, one more. They asked about parent support groups, and do we have members monitoring it with guided? Do we have staff monitoring it? We don't currently have support groups at Alpine, although we do host different support groups that might function independently from Alpine. So we don't currently offer parent support groups as part of Alpine Learning Group.
Yeah, I think what this question is referring to is, Nicole mentioned that we have parent meetings. And so during those parent meetings, sometimes they are targeted, where we're sharing information about something that is important to, the individuals that we support, important to their life. We will be sharing some information or resources. But sometimes we do have more open meetings. So, like, for instance, we had one on the transition into adulthood, and what does the paperwork look like? What kinds of activities are available, those kinds of things. And so when the parents are together in a space like that, they are able to ask questions of each other. So there is a staff member there to help guide them. But many times out of those meetings comes connections to each other, and then us helping to facilitate that afterwards. And so we'll do some of those more like support group kind of parent meetings, as well as specific information shared.
Someone else asked, transitioning to adulthood comes with a lot of change, and our child is really struggling with some of the shifts in routines. What kinds of tools or strategies do you recommend for making the process more emotionally manageable?
This is a great question. I think with anything major change all at once is difficult. I think that would be change that would be difficult for all of us. So looking at things that would be a big change and trying to gradually make changes to that would be really important, so that it's not so noticeable that it's a huge change. But then it's also manageable in whatever skills you need to teach to transition from one routine to the next. So I think, thinking ahead where there's a lot of that we have to do when we're thinking about adulthood, especially you're starting at 10 or 14, as some of you are now, is just thinking about like, what does this process look like 5-10 years from now? And then how do we gradually make that change so that it looks like that 5-10 years from now?
I would also say that you know your child best,
Mhm.
and think of the tools that have been helpful thus far. And a lot of the times, the same tools that were helpful when somebody was in an education program can be helpful to that person in adulthood. So using visual cues, making things that might seem unpredictable predictable by planning ahead and making sure that you're describing and explaining to the extent that they're able to understand what changes on the horizon. Teaching skills that might be needed in the new environments way ahead of time. So one thing that we have found is that our adults have to wait a lot more than they did when they were in the education program, because the staffing ratios aren't the same in adult programs that are available in our education program. And so simply teaching someone to know when they're hanging around waiting for their teacher to become available, how do they keep themselves busy? So really pre-planning what skills might be needed in the next environment, doing it gradually and slowly, as Katrina said, but also relying on those tools that have worked for you in the past, worked for your child in the past. They may need to be changed or made different because they're now an adult. So walking around with a colorful laminated token board may not be appropriate for community sites, but a small wallet with some coins might be. And so thinking about the tools that are helpful now and how you might make them and modify them to the adult context or setting.
Yeah, really thinking about those material comforts too that Nicole was mentioning. If there's something that's very comforting to your child as they're trying something new, let them have that around, have access to it as they're trying something new.
And it comes up fast. So the parent who said their child is 10, it goes really, at least in my experience in watching Alpine Learning Group learners grow up, it just seems that they're 10 today and they're 18 tomorrow. So it happens relatively fast. So it requires a lot of pre-planning. Well, that is all of the questions that I see here in the chat. And I want to thank everybody for joining. For those of you who may not know, Alpine Learning Group offers a range of services. If you think that we could be helpful in your child's journey, no matter where they are in the process, you can learn more about our services by going to our website and also calling our intake coordinator, Karen Gans, at the number that we have listed here below. Thank you all for being here, and thank you, Katrina and Nicole, for being our panelists today and sharing such useful information. Thank you, everybody.